Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, Kaspa has been moving. Kaspa has been actually looking really, really good over the last few days. We can see, ladies and gentlemen, just today, we are up a solid couple percent. Now, it might not seem like a lot going up this 10%, but the bigger picture is beautiful. If you guys haven't heard yet, Jerome Powell said pretty much there are going to be rate cuts this September. So, yes, pretty much in roughly 3 weeks or so, we should be seeing rate cuts. And if you guys are not familiar, rate cuts mean market goes up. Okay, market goes up. And the thing is, that's most likely going to happen is once we get one rate cut, they're just consistently going to cut the rates. Okay. Because even Trump said the rates should be at one. We're currently at 4.5 or something. Um, and that it should have been getting cut consistently throughout the year. So I think once they get cut, they will be getting consistently cut. And we could potentially be dropping 50 points. For sure, we're dropping 25, but just just keep an eye out because if we drop 50 points, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to cause a huge shift in the market. We can already see today alone that rumor, that confirmation practically caused Bitcoin to pump thousands and thousands of dollars. Right? We swept these weekly bottoms like we have been talking about on this channel for some time. And then we can see we swept it. We got a nice hourly doji candle. What happened? The news came out at 10 o'clock and we pretty much shot up roughly $3,500 in just 1 hour. And we can see we've been making our way ever since, right? I do think Bitcoin is most likely going to exhaust a little bit and go for a slight pullback of 1 to 2,000. But that doesn't really change anything, right? The structure has been shifted. Okay, the structure has been shifted, and I expect for us to be very, very bullish the start of next week. Even if we do sell off a little bit, it should be nothing crazy, and we should be looking to reclaim territory back at least to 120K, possibly back to around 123, $124,000. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, because, ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin being bullish, Bitcoin dominance going down, money coming into the markets mean, you know, things like Kaspa should automatically be seeing some type of reaction. As you guys know, Kaspa has been kind of getting squished from both sides. We can see, ladies and gentlemen, when we take some of these tops, we can kind of create this type of triangle. Boom, bang, bing. Right? Very, very nice. Very, very nice. But what does this mean? Well, this means that eventually we are going to suffocate and run out of space. So that means ultimately, in the end, we have to choose a direction to pump. Now, there is nothing suggesting that we are going to really ultimately break out of the zone and start selling to the downside. Nothing. Could we get a potential fake out? Could a fake out potentially next week or in 2 weeks be still on the line? Yeah, it could be. But in terms of actually breaking down to the downside and closing and selling off back to 6, 5, 4, 3 cents, it would not make sense, especially with rate cuts coming in, especially with more money coming in. And I'm still high on Caspa. I feel very, very sound asleep holding lots and lots and lots of this crypto, right? I bought Caspa multiple times around like what 5, 6 cents, not really 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 cents, right? I pretty much have been buying from anywhere from here downwards, right? We talked about before how I had a buy limit even at like around 8 cents or the liquidity sweep at 7.8. I've had multiple buyers and I've been dollar cost averaging ever since. So, my price is looking really, really good. And practically once we kind of get above this support and resistance, for me personally, I'm like in the nice green profits. And that is practically the next step, right? The next step for Caspa, despite whether we go down or just simply straight up right away, is to reclaim this huge support and resistance. Because when we look at the monthly, we can see clear as day there is a huge resistance over here. There's months and months and worth of data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Pretty much 9 months of support that turned into resistance. And practically for 1, 2, 3, like 3 to 4 months, we have been looking to push up and we failed every single time. But the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, the bottoms continue to rise. We can see in terms of the candle closes, the black candle closes continue to rise, which ultimately means that we fail to go lower and lower, that buyers see the price of Caspa, you know, they don't allow it to go past a certain point because they see a certain value, right? Before maybe 6 months was the bottom. Now 7 months, or sorry, now Caspa goes to 7 cents. They don't allow it to go further down. Now it might be 8 cents, and before you know it, this thing is going to explode past this 10, 11 cent mark, and that opportunity is going to be missed. Pretty much once we do explode from this area, if we're talking about just point A to Z, the next real point of contention is around 19 cents, right? That is ultimately the next picture. And then, of course, after that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the expansion, which I expect Caspa to expand very, very well. You know, this is one of those things where I believe Caspa will be having its spotlight. Ultimately, I am very, very optimistic about this project. This thing went from 1 BPS to 10 BPS like roughly 2 or 3 months ago, and eventually is going to go to 100 BPS, then eventually to 250 BPS. So fantastic. It's just a scaling crypto, right? And that's just one aspect. We're not talking about anything else the project does, right? We're not talking about anything else with this crypto. We're just talking about this simple thing that's pretty much very nice and continues to scale. So yeah, once we do expand, I probably do expect for us to hit the 2.2 to probably the 3.2 zone. Probably roughly around 50 cents is where we would most likely eventually get to. Probably sell off a good amount back down to 30 cents. Before then, we would have our final gigantic pumps all the way still for me upwards of $1.50 to even 2.25. This cycle is very, very realistic. For me, it's very, very realistic, right? If we go to something like Coin Market Cap, we can see, ladies and gentlemen, we go click on something like Caspa, ranked 43 in the world out of 9,515 active cryptos, 2.5 billion market cap, practically 100 million volume in the last 24 hours. So it is looking good. So if we were to 10x, 25 billion market cap at 93 cents, very, very realistic. If we were practically to 20x, pretty much 50 billion market cap, technically slightly less, and that would be roughly around $1.80 to $1.90. For me, that is more than realistic for a crypto like Caspa, especially with the way the world is going and the way crypto is getting adopted over the last couple of months. But that is ultimately it, ladies and gentlemen. I love you guys so much. Let me know what you still think about this project. Let me know, uh, you know, your mindset, if you bought more, and where do you think it's going to head to. Anyways, I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye. Also, something I forgot to mention, which is a pretty nice update, is that Caspa is officially now listed on Kraken. We can see CAS/USDT now on Kraken. So, you know what? If you're a Kraken holder, if you're a Kraken user, get yourself some Caspa. Obviously, something like this is always nice. For us to be getting listed on more and more exchanges, for us to be getting leverage traded, always puts eyes on something like Caspa. And I expect overall Caspa to pretty much be listed on more exchanges in the future. I know there's some friction between certain exchanges because they want certain money or this or that. But ultimately, I think when people see the magic of Caspa and that they don't really need all these exchanges, the exchanges will eventually cave in. But that is ultimately it, officially what I want to say. I love you guys so much. Thank you for all the support in recent times. I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.